part about Christmas and New Year is when it's all over and finished and it's time to take the Christmas tree down. So that's what I'm going to do today. Following on from my Freedom series, which is choosing freedom in midlife, I'll talk to you today about what freedom really looks like after 50. So last week I spoke about choosing freedom, and it wasn't about starting all over from the beginning and starting everything from scratch. It's about choosing freedom differently, what that actually looks like. So it's not about reinventing yourself. It's not about trying to improve yourself, because at this stage of life, you've done that part. You're proving yourself. But it's about refinement. Let's think about what definition of freedom used to look like. And I know for me, what that meant for me was a busy calendar, hardly any gaps throughout my day, the hustle, the bustle, a constant self-improvement. Can't tell you how many books I've read on self-improvement, amount of holidays I've used to take books on about self-improvement. And also what it's not about is productivity and how busy you are. I've spent years thinking being successful is about being busy and being productive, constantly on the go, having 3 or 4 jobs going on at the same time, multitasking. And then you know that point when your partner walks in at the time where you've decided to sit down and take a break, put the kettle on and just sit down for 5 minutes because you've not stopped for hours. How many of you have felt like me, guilty? Like they're just walking on you as you're sitting down and it looks like you've been doing nothing all day. Why do you make yourself feel guilty? And that's what I mean by freedom in terms of midlife and being free after 50. Is getting rid of all that guilt. At this stage in your life, freedom is about, freedom stops when you start performing. Freedom starts when you stop performing. So what freedom actually feels like and looks like for me now is not rushing in the morning. What does freedom look like for me now? Well, one thing it is not is rushing in the morning. I don't do these absurd morning rituals anymore, you know, trying to set the alarm, get up, seize the day before anybody else. So what freedom actually feels like for me now? Firstly, no rushing in the mornings. I used to be one of those people that had a real high-end morning plan, tried to get up super early, seize the day, get loads done before you even start the working day. And all that did was give me less sleep at night. And the idea is you have a reasonable night's sleep so you can be fresh for your next day. So now it's not about seizing the moment before you even get out the door. It's no rush. Yes, I do some prepping for myself. There's a really great system that I've adopted over the last couple of years, which is butlering yourself to make it easier on yourself. So I do plan the night before and I do prep my breakfasts way in advance. So my morning routine is definitely simpler and it's easier and I don't have to think about what I'm going to eat for breakfast every morning. I take out those decisions already. I wear a uniform to work, so I take out the decisions of what to wear. And it is about having slow mornings on my terms, my cup of tea, my breakfast, the odd 1 or 2 YouTube videos I like to enjoy watching before I even get myself ready for work. So A, for me, nice, slow mornings. Number 2, what freedom actually feels like for me is being able to say no. And that I've worked on for a very long time, and I've had to do it in stages. In the beginning, I would just say yes to everything. I have always been a people pleaser, and I always put other people's feelings before my own, and would say yes to everything. I find it really difficult to say no. And I've had lots of work, I've done lots of work to improve on that, and I have done it in stages. So my first stage was just stopping and allowing the conversation to stop for a moment, rather than fill the conversation, fill the gaps with explanations. And in the beginning, I just would say, let me look at my diary and see what I can do, and I'll come back to you. And what that did initially was give me a bit of breathing space to not feel like I had to say yes, that I could delay it. And then once I was out of that situation, and it wouldn't possibly be the same day, I would say I would get back to them the next day or two, where I could. If it was something that needed a decision that day, it would be within an hour or two, but it allowed me to get myself out of that situation and give myself time to think, do I really want to do this? And what will I benefit by doing it? Or if I'm saying yes to it, whatever has been requested of me, it's normally more work, then I'm saying no to something for myself. I'm saying, no, you can't go and work out today because you're going to use that time to continue to stay at work. Or if I say, no, I can't go to the supermarket today and get my ingredients that I want to cook a nice family meal later and to prep for tomorrow. I'm saying no to be at the dinner table with my family because I'm still going to be at work. What am I saying no to, rather than what I'm saying yes to that benefits other people, that takes it away from myself? I hope that makes sense. So it really did give me some time and bide me some time. And then the next part was not explaining why I couldn't, like feeling guilty for saying no, that I almost tell people my entire schedule to take away the guilt of saying no, and literally just showing them how busy I am, and to justify it. Whereas just saying no, and that's freedom in itself. And it's okay if at times where you can't do it face to face in the heat at the moment, but that you can delay it. There's no harm in that. If that makes you feel better, it did me, it makes me feel better, then I get back to people later on in the day or the next day. This is where I found it quite difficult in the job that I do. I work with mainly the elderly, but those that are either seriously ill, palliative care, which end of life care, or recovering from serious operations, basically in a lot worse position than I am. And that's my main reason where I felt so guilty, is that me wanting to food prep, me wanting to exercise, me wanting to go to the gym with a friend, me wanting to have dinner with the family at 6 o'clock, or none of that seemed as important as someone's end of life situation, and I always put that first. And I've done this job for 20 years, so there's a lot of putting other people first. There was a lot of history to undo and change. But in my 50s, and really only the last couple of years, to be fair, it's something I've mastered. It's taken me a long time to master, but definitely now I am so comfortable. The more you say it, the more you do it, the easier it is. And it's like, can I get back to you on that? And I'll see what I can do to help. And then I've got time to go back and say, like, do I really want to do this? And if the answer is no, then I literally just go back and say, I've done my best to try and accommodate, but I can't do that right now. And then stop, don't speak no more. You'll quite often find that they'll come up with the solution themselves. And and that is a huge amount of freedom. Number three is choosing rest without guilt. So earlier on I gave an example where I might be at home for an hour. I've been out all morning, I've got an hour's gap. I come home quickly, put the kettle on, unload the dishwasher, put the laundry on, flick through with the hoover, literally do 5 or 6 chores at once, and literally then have a cup of tea, have a bite to eat, sit down and eat it before I go back out to work. At the time where my husband will come home, and as I'm sitting down having a cup of tea, and then I feel guilty that I'm sitting down. How crazy is that? Feeling guilt for having rest. That's another big area of freedom for me, is allowing myself, for goodness sake, you've been on the go since however long, it's lunchtime, you need to nourish yourself, you need to sit down and enjoy what you're eating, not eat and run on the go or in the car in between patients. And it's freedom in having that rest, and freedom in having a guilt-free rest break. That's huge. The other part of freedom for me is about listening to my body. So I have got to the point where I exercise because of the way it makes me feel. Not because I have to, not because I'm trying to lose weight, not because I had a big meal last night, it's because the way it makes me feel. And if I have a plan where I'm looking to train 2 or 3 times next week, and I've scheduled that in my diary to ensure I get to do it on my terms and on the times I want to do it with my training buddy that I want to train with, I schedule it in. But if I've had a really bad night's sleep or most recently I got knocked out with that super flu, and I had to listen to my body and say, do you know what, it's not good that I do it today, and then don't be guilty about it. Listening to my body. The other examples I can give on listen to your body is when I didn't eat so great and so nourishing, there were the little symptoms that I just ignored. So for example, if I had too much sugar, so too much chocolate, which is something that I love, dark chocolate, I would get pimples on my tongue and I would get a sore tongue, and it's like my body was saying, this is enough. But when you don't listen to your body, you override that. The same when you eat until you're uncomfortably full, you stop listening to the signals. You don't feel them anymore, you don't hear them anymore, you go past that. Well, once you are nourishing your body, looking after yourself, you do hear those signals, and it's about listening to your body and stopping. That's freedom. The other thing as well in terms of freedom, one area that I really do focus on, I have always been quite goal driven, personal goals, and that doesn't always necessarily have to be work related goals. It could be, I operate on a 5F system. Maybe one video I'll go through if you're interested in what my quarterly goals are or my annual goals and how I break them down over each quarter. And that does sound very office and work based, but most of my goals are personal goals, and I like to stop at every quarter, reflect on those goals throughout the last quarter, see if I met them, see if they need tweaking. Sometimes you start out on a goal and it works really well, you've got momentum, and then others maybe they're not so important and you can drop them, change them as you go. But it is about reflecting and choosing when something feels right and choosing when something actually is no longer necessary, and you can move on from that. So for example, let me try and give you an example of one of my last year's goals. One of my last year's goals, let's say, was returning back to running. Freedom with time. When I mentioned earlier about my diary and the productivity and about always being really very busy, I could show you, only in the last few years, most of my appointments are hourly based. They may start at 8:30, they may start 8, and my diary would be 8 till 9, 9 till 10, 10 to 11, literally all the way through till the end of the day. And when I look at that diary, because all my appointments were done hourly and because they were all colour coded, my daily diary was just literally full of colours, no white space, no gaps at all. And I had to then try and work out, okay, when am I going to grab lunch? When am I going to grab a snack? When am I going to grab a drink? Freedom is that. Freedom for me in that diary system is to see white space. That white space is where I can take care of myself. Take that lunch, go to the shops to get a few groceries, use that time and be comfortable with that white space. It's okay to go slower. It's okay to have fewer obligations. But that takes time. And it takes courage to say no. So you have these white spaces in your diary. You have that time. Freedom in health. Freedom in health for me looks like enjoying and embracing a strong body. Health is not how small my body is. Whereas in decades before, it was all about being smaller. It was all about having a smaller dress size. And God, that's changed so much in my 50s. And being strong, nourishing your body, you get the end result anyway. But it's about being stronger. Training. Freedom in health for me is also training my body. Training it to be able to lift, training it to be able to carry, training it to be able to move comfortably. I get to work with a generation that struggle with that, struggle with getting out of an armchair, struggle with getting out of bed, struggling with getting off the toilet, definitely not getting into a bath, and doing basic training on parts of your body that continues and allows you to lift, carry your shopping, getting in and out of chairs. I choose my exercises in the gym in terms of functionality is one of my first key points, and what I'm going to benefit with that exercise as I age. So it's freedom to do that. Yes, I've done all the real crazy classes in the past and they've been really fun, but it is more about being more functional with what my body can do and what I want it to continue to do as I age further. At this stage in my life, I'm far more interested in what my body is able to do than how small it is. That's freedom too. The other part of freedom for me is nourishment. Nourishment over restriction. That is another huge change for me as I have approached my mid-50s. It's literally about stepping away of the cycles of dieting. I mean, this is possibly now my third Christmas where the food at Christmas hasn't ruled me. I haven't overeaten to the point that I'm uncomfortable and in a slumber in a chair. I haven't gained weight over Christmas, and this is a lifetime of yo-yo dieting and crazy diets over the decades. So to have freedom now in my 50s to be able to step away from all of that, step away from the diet culture and the control that it has over your life. And it means for me to be able to support my body with the right foods, the healthy foods, but the foods that I enjoy, and the foods I need for good hormone health, and the foods I need for, you know, going through the menopause, and to enjoy the foods I also love to eat. So in the past, it's always been about restriction to the point where you crave nothing but what you're restricting from, but it's about incorporating those into my everyday diet plan health. Because the moment I leave it out completely is the moment that's all I think about and that's all I crave. Long gone do I think about, oh my God, what am I going to eat for breakfast? What am I going to eat for lunch? What am I going to have for my snack? That just doesn't happen anymore once you take out those restrictions and you just enjoy what you eat. Nothing's off limits. That's perfect. That's freedom. Letting go of the guilt around eating. I mean, God, I can think back in the past where bread's totally off limits, things like avocados are off limits because they're supposed to be so fattening, you know, all of these things. When I look back now of how food used to just literally rule my life, to the fact now it's so different, so different. It's freeing for sure. The other part of freedom, which I think is a huge shift for me, has been less people pleasing for sure, less comparison. I enjoy running and I enjoy weight training hugely. Both two areas of exercises that are good for me. That might not be something that you enjoy. You may have something else that you love. I have a training buddy who is 20 years younger than me and we work so well together. I am definitely more upper body strong in terms of supporting patients over the years. I am quite strong, but my lower body is definitely the weaker. And for her, she's the opposite. She loves to horse ride and she's definitely stronger lower half. So we complement each other really well in the gym. And what's so lovely about that relationship is that there is no comparison. I'm there for her. I'm there for her to push as hard as she wants to work and support her, and vice versa. When we run, I'm definitely stronger runner than she is, but I'm there for her. When it gets tough, I go at her pace and we just get the run done. And I tell you, it is just the best way to exercise with someone when you are supporting each other, you are picking each other up, you are challenging each other, and it's nothing about comparison. And all I compare myself to is how I performed maybe last month. Am I just a little bit stronger in myself? And there's my comparison with how I was last year and the year before, and how much stronger than I am now, rather than am I as fast as that person, or I'm not as fast as that person, or there's no comparison. And that is totally and utterly freedom in itself. Now I'm trying to do a series on freedom, as you know, and I do have another couple more videos to tackle freedom, but I want to come across as this isn't something that has just happened to me this month, and it's going to be something that you change over time and not overnight. You know, to be able to say, okay, I'm not going to be a people pleaser anymore, I'm just going to say no, I'm going to have white space in my diary, I'm going to do all of these things for Monday morning, is just not possible. I have broken down these steps step by step and worked on them over time, and it gets easier and they become habits, and you stop thinking about them, they just become a part of your life. So it's not about changing your whole life overnight, it really is about how you relate to it. That's key. Now I've got a real gentle question for you. Where in your life are you right now? Where in your life do you crave a little bit of freedom? Think about that. Think where you are in your life with freedom. What are you craving? In what areas of your life are you craving freedom? And pop it in the comments below. I'd love to read them. I'd love to see where you are in your stage of freedom, and we can all help each other, give each other tips, what we've encountered, what's gone well for us. Please give it some thought, pop it in the comments below. So in the next video, I'm going to be sharing some small daily habits that you will be able to implement in your life to introduce more freedom for you. Nothing complicated, just realistic small habits that can help you one step at a time conquer some freedom in your life. Freedom after 50 for me, it is not about doing more, but it's about choosing differently. I look forward to seeing you next week. Happy New Year from me and Bruno. Happy New Year from me and Lexi. You say hello to the people?